Joining us today is the man behind Kids versus Aliens with movies like Hobo with a Shotgun, VHS 2 segments, like the Slumber Party Alien Abduction, Tree Revenge, and much more. So let's dive into filmmaking with Jason Eisner. Jason, thank you for being here, man.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
It's definitely a blast, and your film is bad shit. It's so good.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you got to see it.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to, everybody who helps us get these screeners sometimes, or just being able
Yeah,
to be lucky with sometimes the theaters around us get the screeners and they're like, hey, we're doing like a secret showing of these movies. So we're able to go and see them. And
yeah.
being able to see Kids versus Aliens is awesome. And especially for Dean, he's all the way in the UK.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah, man. It was kind of like a haunted house ride experience watching that
yeah.
film, man.
That's
It's kind of
cool.
that's what it reminded me of. Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
love stuff
great.
like that.
You're the first person to say that, and
Oh, wow, cool.
yeah, that's like definitely like a big inspiration for it, for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. I'm a big lover of scare mazes and scream parks, and
Same.
I support that whole industry, man. So whenever I
Yeah, same
see
here.
any movies like that, I love. We recently even
Yeah.
spoke to Damien Maffei from Haunt. I love that movie as well. Just the whole idea of
Yes.
a haunt going terribly wrong. But hey, that's another
Yeah.
movie.
No, like I love I'm the same way. Like I'm obsessed with like haunts and like dark rides and like
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
especially home haunts and
Oh, yeah. That's super
Yeah.
low budget. Like, I'm going to be as gritty as possible. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
They're
just like the
great.
family made ones where
Yeah.
someone's creating their own like universe in their like garage or whatever. Like I
I love
admire
that,
that
man.
so much. And like that I always said that like on set. I kept saying like, we're trying to it's like let's try and make this like a haunted house like experience. And we
Yeah.
were shooting it at Halloween as well too. And back home we have a bunch of cool like home haunts. And so when we
Yeah.
weren't shooting, me and my friends are running off to, go on haunted house rides. So
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah.
Have you ever been to any houses over here in the UK? Or
No,
scream?
because I've never been there during the like
Oh,
the time period. Yeah.
you'd be yeah. There we've got some really good. We've been up in our game every year, man.
Yeah.
And I came
Dean's
to.
always telling me.
I'm telling you, I've only recently just started doing American haunts over in the
Yeah.
States, and I'm like, we're on par. I really feel like we're on
Oh, that's
par.
great. That's so
So
cool.
definitely come and check. If you ever
Oh, I
travel over and
would.
check any out, then I'll give you a pointer. There's some
Yeah,
good ones. Good
I
ones.
would love that. That'd be awesome.
Hell yeah. And
Awesome.
yeah, this movie definitely has that feeling for sure.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
before we start diving into, what you've been doing in Kids versus Aliens, I always like to kind of go back to the beginning. So,
hmm
Jason, where did filmmaking and writing and just the love of the genre kind of begin for you?
Well, I guess I would have to say it all started for me was like growing up like skateboarding and like and probably in the like the seventh grade got into skateboarding heavily, and then by the eighth grade just did whatever jobs I could to buy my first video camera because I wanted to film skateboarding.
Yeah.
And then when me and my friends were skateboarding, I started filming like little skits and shorts, and then it was like at school, like I had a hard time like academically, and so I just like once I had the camera in my hand, I just convinced every teacher to let me turn every project into like a video project, and that's how I got through school. And then
That's awesome.
yeah, and then by the time I got to the 12th grade, my high school had seen me and my friends like running around with the camera and, making projects or videos for every project. And so they decided to develop like a film and video class. And
Oh,
like it was
that
like,
is awesome.
yeah, and it was like just so unheard of at the time. And the guy who ran it, the teacher, his name was Brian O'Grady, and he was the art teacher, and he didn't know anything about filmmaking, and they tasked him with, with this program, and he still to this day was like the most inspirational person in my life, and he was like one of those like art teachers that I remember in art class, like kids trying to like get a rise out of him by like drawing something offensive, like some crazy Nazi stuff or whatever, and so they could get kicked out of class. But he would like point out like all the cool things in their work, and
Oh, that's
and
really
I and
cool.
I would see kids like he would leave their table, and I would see kids kind of like a little perplexed, and maybe like think but see, the potential in what, they were doing. And he never pushed his own like artistic aesthetic like on us. He just like tried to get into like what we were into. And like I remember like he told us about like, Rob Rodriguez's like Rebel Without a Crew book. Like he found
Yeah,
that,
yeah, I've
and
read that.
yeah, and he found like Rodriguez's like short film they made with his sister. And so I remember him showing that to our class, and it just felt like that was like attainable, like that we could make something like that. And then from there he helped me like apply to a community college.
Oh, wow.
And there they had like a screen arts program, and it was treated like a trade school. So they taught you like how to, use cameras and how to record sound and how to be an AD on set and be a gaffer and a grip and
Oh, wow. At a community college? Wow. That's
yeah, it's a
awesome.
arts program at Nova Scotia Community College. And it's funny because like I've since then, this was 20 years ago, I've met people from all different kinds of like film schools. And that and that one program, it was a small program, but like so many people came out of it like working in the film industry. And I think like by the time we were making Kids versus Aliens, we counted on the crew like there was like over 2 dozen people that also graduated like from the same program were working on my movie.
That's awesome.
um
Wow.
yeah, and so that was like 2 years, and it was awesome because at the time, I don't know what it costs now, but at the time when I went, it was $1,300 a year,
Wow.
to go to like to go to college, and so
That's
like
Wow, that's all. Yeah,
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 like
that's
I
good.
made
a
up
dream.
for my tuition in just one weekend's worth of like gear that I would take from the school to go like film my movies.
Wow.
So that was, yeah, definitely a huge part of my, yeah, growing up. And then from there it was just trying to get jobs on movies. And uh yeah.
That's great, man.
But
I read
that's
that.
the origin.
I read
Wow.
somewhere that you remade this classic movie.
Oh wow, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read that somewhere that you did a kind of remake of that, or you did your own kind of version of that. Is
Yeah,
that right?
this is so funny. Like when I was 8 years old, like I saw Beetlejuice and I was obsessed with it. Like I
Hell
Classic
yeah.
loved it
movie.
so much. And I was scared by it, and just, that's probably one of the reasons why I like genre stuff is probably because Beetlejuice, because it
Yeah.
blurred like it just for like you had the cartoon as well too, and then the
Yeah.
movie, and it just like it almost felt like it was for kids in a way. And funny side story, well, just to finish that, I had my dad like take his camera and help me. I played Beetlejuice and I was 8, and
That's brilliant.
I have no idea where that footage is, but that was the first time I ever thought of the idea of like, making a movie or whatever. But years later, when I'm doing the post on Hobo with a Shotgun, the I had to go to Toronto to do all the post. And while I was like editing, because I was like stuck in a room for like 4 months, like editing, and I was feeling kind of like down or depressed or something. I just needed something to just to inspire me. And so I
Yeah.
bought a Beetlejuice like action figure the one with all the like swords, the skewers sticking out of it. Because
Oh,
I
okay.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. I've
Love
seen
that
images of
Yeah,
costume.
that.
Yeah.
yeah, I love that figure as a kid. So I bought it, and then on the way to the airport to go to Toronto, I picked it up from the post office. I landed in Toronto, get into the hotel, and I look up, and there's Tim Burton and his friends like
No.
sitting like in the
Wow.
lobby.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
and I was like, this is so weird. Like this is
What a
like,
pick me up, huh?
yeah.
Did they just
I was like,
did
I
they have
got
like a little
what's
sorry, go
that?
on, man. Oh, sorry.
Oh
No, I was gonna say, did they have like a little dark cloud above them with like a
no,
some
you
gothic
know what
rain
though?
kind of coming through
They
it?
did look like the fan, like those dinner table scenes of Beetlejuice where they bring
Yeah.
their friends
Oh
over and they all
yes.
like look like just
Yeah.
interesting. That's what it was like. Like everyone who was with him was interesting and
That's
seemed
what
like
you
a
want.
character. Yeah. And so I he like when he like got up, I like went up to him and I was like, man, like this is gonna sound ridiculous, but like I unzipped my bag and I was like, I picked this up like on the way here as like, an inspiration to just to help fuel me as I'm, here in Toronto doing, the posts on my movie. And he was like, "Oh, what's your movie?" And I told him, and it's starring Rugger Hauer. And he's like, "What? Like you got Rugger Hauer?"
Yeah.
And then he invited me to go. He had like an exhibit at
Wow.
the TIFF Lightbox there, and I went and saw that, and that was like super inspirational as well too. So, anyways,
Wow,
yeah.
life can just do amazing
That's
things.
I
fantastic, man.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, it was crazy. It was really cool, and it was cool that he was cool. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah,
was good.
humble, which,
Yeah.
a lot of people
He,
aren't.
No, I
yeah.
know. Yeah.
He really is a hero for so many people, isn't he, Tim Burton? And he's one of them sort of people that I always thought, God, I really hope he's a cool guy.
Yeah. Oh,
Not
yeah.
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. You seem to be. Yeah.
Yeah. What was you mentioned Rutger Hauer? I mean, you've probably been asked this a million and one times. What was it like working with him? He's an absolute
Oh,
legend, man.
yeah, I love talking about it. I'm so fond and to have such nostalgia for my time with him.
Hmm.
But working with him was like it was, yeah, it was like a dream. It was, gosh, we had like such like an emotional connection. It was like, it felt like this like emotional roller coaster with like a short amount of time with somebody where we intensely got to know each other for like a few months, like
Yeah.
inside and out. And like Rugger was very like emotional and like he
Mm.
could be like guarded, but like once you like if he trusted you, like he would just trust you with like a lot of like personal stuff too, and we
Hmm.
were always drawing on like personal experiences. So yeah, just to someone I grew up like loving, and like he was the first actor that like I saw in movies that I thought, whoa, like this guy, everything he's in is cool. Like
Yeah.
like a director, like you want to track down their
Hmm.
work. I was tracking down his, and I just never would have thought. And I remember when the distributors asked me, like when we were casting, like to make a list of your favorite actors, I put him at the top of the list, thinking like
Wow.
kind of like just to sabotage it, because I thought there was
Yeah.
no way this is gonna happen. Like the scratch it off and we'll get to something more realistic, like
Yeah.
faster. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
So day one on set with him was like, holy shit.
Oh
He's
my, okay.
here.
This is amazing. So on the first day we're filming, and it's a scene where it's like it actually was a great like moment for him to get introed in the world. It's like him literally like walking into this town, and there's burning barrels, and it's when he's seeing this guy, like this filmmaker, like exploiting like homeless people, and there's this like garbage like everywhere. There's this like production design just brought all this garbage, and while we were setting up the scene, I'm stressing out like so hard because it's like it's snowing, which it's like not supposed to, and it's the first day of my first movie, and it's fucking Rugger Hauer, and I look in the corner of my eye and I see Rugger like kind of looking around, and then he goes and he like grabs like a piece of rope and he ties it to like a stake in the ground, and he runs it over to this like rusty like propane tank. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? And then and he like steps away, and then I see the writer, my like best friend John, like John walks on set with the set like the script. He's like, hey guys, and hits the wire and goes
Oh man.
flying over, like topples over. And I look over, and Rugger is like standing over in the distance, like laughing, just like ass.
Oh, wow. It's a practical joke.
Yeah, just like he just like, yeah. I was like, this is what we're in for. Like this is
That's
Right.
awesome.
this is crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
Very, 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 very cool.
Yeah.
And I guess to talk about some other things before we jump into Kids versus Aliens is talking about the short segments that you had in ABCs of Death and VHS 2. What was it
Mm.
like, providing for those films? Because those have gone on to be huge, huge successes, and people love those films.
Mm. Yeah, well, I've always loved like anthology movies, and those were like a great way to kind of just like explore some like ideas and experiment, and like with the Slumber Party Alien Abduction short for VHS 2 at the time, like I was really inspired to do like an animal perspective movie, but like within a horror genre, you know?
Okay.
Like I love Babe and I love Babe 2. And I loved this movie called Le Bear, which is this French movie that's all from the perspective of like a baby bear.
Okay.
And that's like so thrilling. There's like no dialogue in it or anything. So I love like animal perspective movies, and I also love like ride films, like Back to the
Okay. Yeah.
Future ride and Stuart Gordon's Aliens ride,
Oh, yeah.
where it's like, you know, it's a fixed perspective that's going
Yeah.
through the environment, but your like
Mhm.
seat moves like with it.
Mhm.
So I was like, I want to do something like that, like for the screen, and it's like, so I thought, oh, I'll be like, you know, it's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where we're hanging on to the back of a dog, and it's like
Yeah.
he's watching as his family is getting abducted by aliens, and so yeah, that was cool because like there's no way in hell anyone would allow me to make that into like there's no way any studio or place, if they heard that pitch, would, you know, ever greenlight something like that. But
They
you know,
should.
but the producers on VHS were like, they were just like, yeah, do what you want.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
That's
That's
awesome.
great.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
VHS 2 was great as well. Was it Gareth Evans? Is he?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Timo, yeah, their
you
segments
said.
like unreal.
Oh
That's
man, the
so
Gareth
cool.
Evans ones was badass. I remember I discovered so one December, my girlfriend put together a list for every day of December of Christmas horrors to watch, and that's where I discovered Treevenge.
Mm.
She
Oh
came up with
yeah.
that one. I was like, "Where did you find this?" It was great.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that I did that in 2008, and that was like the short film that like
Yeah,
really helped me like get people to pay attention and to help me finance my first feature film. Like it,
right. Yeah,
yeah,
Killer Trees, man. Yeah,
Hell
yeah,
yeah, man. You can't go wrong with that.
yeah. That's all from I grew up in a home that loves Christmas so much,
yeah.
and I just like my mom was like so intense on Christmas, and I thought like, man, it must be so weird for a tree in this like the quiet
Yeah.
woods to just get abducted and like brought into my mom's home, and like we're, you know, all
Yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
humans are decorating it and Christmas music is playing. It's got to be the weirdest perspective.
And
Yeah.
I
now
love how
Christmas
you're.
horror is like way bigger than it's ever been. Like everybody's putting out Christmas horror films, so you need to come back and do a
Yeah.
second one.
I'm writing a Christmas horror movie right now,
Oh,
so
Oh yes.
maybe that will get made. But yeah, I love them. I love Christmas movies, and I love especially Christmas horror movies. So
yeah.
yeah, the more the merrier.
Hell yeah. All right. Dean, do you have any other questions before we start asking kids versus aliens ones? I want to make sure you get all those ones out of the way.
No, man. We can leap
All
into
right.
that.
All right. So now we're gonna start asking you about the new movie. So I was reading up that this is actually supposed to be loosely connected to Slumber Party Alien Abduction.
Mhm.
So how did you turn that into this? Because it's way different.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to do the same thing that I did on Summer Party Alien Abduction, and it's been like 10 years since I made that short, so I have like all new like influences. But I guess like to get like for me like what got me excited to like to take that concept and blow it up more was just like I had spent like years, the past number of years, like developing like other studios like properties and IPs,
Yeah.
and um and some of the IPs are things that I love, like from when I was a kid too. And but when you spend like a bunch of time on it, and those never come to fruition, you walk
Mhm.
away with nothing. You know, you don't own any of those ideas. So like for me, I just like I had been fantasizing for years about making movies that I guess like I always love like I love like toy lines. Like I'm a big fan of like the toy lines
Yes.
that I grew up with, like Masters of the Universe and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and
Oh, my son is
Busters and
obsessed with TMNT right now, man. He's got
oh, that's
so
great.
many toys.
Gosh, I see like I love that it lives on, you know? And so for me, like that's my dream, is to make things that could do that in my own like universes and my own like IP that I feel like could be a sandbox for kids to like play with, for generations to come, or I could make more movies in them. And so Kids versus Aliens to me, like, it has this big expansive universe to it, that's like, you see bits of it in this first one, but like we're teeing up so much more that could happen. Like our dream is that we could make like more of these, and so we've left a lot of breadcrumbs in this movie to just to hopefully spark people's interest, as to wanting more from this universe. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So there is a potential sequel to this, is what you're saying.
if the if people watched it and talked about it, and the financiers wanted to make it happen, there's
Hell
nothing
yeah.
more I'd rather do. Like
I,
that's
I'm
like my dream.
I'm saying like before like it's even like out for everybody to watch, I say yes. Yes. It's so
Hell
Thank
yeah.
you.
fun.
No, thank
Like
you.
Dean and I were talking about this too, and what I think I love about it so much is like because I grew up like watching a lot of like 90s TV and early 2000s TV and shows
Mm.
like that, like got Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, even like Power Rangers. There's a little bit of that in here too with
Yeah.
the making videos at home.
Hmm.
So like what was it like trying to, not really rip on it, but like to make it something from modern day?
Yeah, like for like I'm like very cautious of like wanting like or making something that like is just like like no matter what I do, people are gonna watch the movie and be like, "Oh, it's like an '80s like kids movie." But it's like, sure, it's got the spirit of those movies, but I
Yeah.
wanted it to be a movie of today. It's like it's not it doesn't take place in the '80s, and
Hmm.
it's like a for me, even though it's in my like in the universe of my films, it's a very modern like story, and I wanted kids today to be able to watch it and be able to connect with it, and hopefully they think it's cool. And so yeah, it's something I was very cautious of, and just and for me, like it took just like I'm always leaning on the kids, and I'm always trying to stay I'm always trying to protect the inner kid in me, and try to listen to like a younger voice to see that hopefully that I'm doing something that attracts their attention, and like yeah, like, and I like for me, like I feel like um I like the way my like attention span works for stories and everything, I think is probably similar to a lot of kids of this generation. And so I want my movie like it like my work like it moves fast, and it's like
Yeah.
every scene, and just like I don't want people like, or even myself, to get bored for like a second of what's happening. So it's pretty full on.
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you like? I'll let you throw
It's,
a couple.
yeah, it's super colorful as well. I love the colors.
Thank
Super,
you.
super colorful. I love stuff like that. What was the kind of inspiration behind the costumes? Because you had like the kind of Legion of Doom shoulder pads, and I can tell you
Yeah.
can kind of tell that you're into like figures and that kind of stuff. So
Oh,
with it,
totally.
yeah. Did you have a lot of input in kind of the look of the costumes, or did you have someone come
Yeah,
in?
no, absolutely. I actually like we couldn't afford to like get like any like graphic designers or any artists to do like concept work. So in the spirit of the movie, I did like my own like drawings that like just kind of look like kids drawings, and I had this like little like sketchbook where
Oh hell
I would
yeah.
draw them out with like colored pencils and
Oh, that
stuff,
is so sick.
Wow,
That's better than
that's
anything I
awesome.
could do.
oh,
You too.
um, and so yeah, I would just daydream about like ideas for like what
Wow,
they could look like.
Wow.
And
you turn that into
uh,
real life, man.
Yeah,
That's so
you
yeah.
cool.
need to like publish that book right now.
Oh, that'd be cool. Like this is like the kids, and when they're making their movie in the opening.
That is so sick.
Hey man, Kids versus
And
Aliens coloring book. We need it.
that'd be
Oh
cool. That'd be
yes.
awesome. That's a good idea.
There
Yes.
you go.
So like one day I like came into set, or to the like the studio, and they had stolen my book, and they photocopied it, made scans of it, and I saw it like just
Oh wow.
all over the walls. And
That's so
And
awesome.
they
Wow.
just started pulling inspiration from them, and obviously, like the pads that the kids wear are very much inspired by like the Road Warriors. And I always
Mm.
felt because um like for me, the first storytelling I did was with my action figures. And like whenever it comes time to like make design a character, I feel like they gotta look as cool enough to be an action figure. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of how I go with with the costume design. It's like, let's use like the color combinations, and that would like be attractive to like a kid. Like how like I try to like study how like other like artists or other like art forms would like use color combinations, especially to like get the attention of kids. And growing up with like wrestling was like a big part of that, because
Yeah.
they in the 80s, when they were designing all their characters, they would use these like color combinations that they knew would like attract a kid's attention on the action figure, on the
Yeah.
shirts, on the everything, all the merchandise that they were making.
Yeah.
And so I remember finding like a long time ago, like some of the sketches they would do for the characters, for the wrestlers, and with their costumes, and they would have like the color swatches, like
Oh wow.
like
Yeah.
up on the top as well too. And and when I saw that, that was right before like Hobo with a Shotgun. Like I went to my costume designer at the time, Sarah Dunsworth, and just told her like, let's do this. Like this is gonna be the way we do costumes like in our movies, is use this same mentality.
Oh wow. That's awesome. Dean, I think you even had a question about action figures, right?
Action figures.
Yeah, asking
Oh,
if you
I've
wanted
got
them
so
to
many of
be
them.
action figures for this movie, I think.
Oh yeah, well I think Jason, you kind of touched on that earlier on about merch.
You're gonna
Yeah.
get it made.
There's so much merch. Well, I had to see what I was actually going to say, because the score is badass, like the
Oh
score for the
yeah.
Yeah,
movie.
that too.
And some of it reminded me like the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, like
Oh,
just
that's yes, yeah, totally. That's
um,
yeah, and you're pulling out like the deep cut, like you're finding, the stuff that's in our soul,
Oh
that's
yeah,
like
man.
in the
it's a bit of me, man. That's what I mean. As soon as I watched
yeah.
it, I was like, I can
You
totally
probably
get
know
where
some of
you're
those
coming
key
from.
sounds from that arcade game, that
I've
those
got it
hits, like
downstairs.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh
actually, I
yeah.
have it on my
I,
my
I,
stepfather just bought the cabinet with all the games in it. So every time I go
Oh,
yeah.
sick.
over there, I'm playing it. So yeah, I can definitely hear that.
Yeah, and I've
So
got
good.
an old jammer cabinet where the jam. Oh, I can't talk properly. Sorry, I've got an old cabinet with a jammer board. It has 650 games in. So you got like
I've got one of
Hell
those
yeah.
too.
Hell yeah.
Simpsons, Turtles 1 and
Yeah.
2,
Oh.
RoboCop, Moonwalker, man.
Have you guys played the new Ninja Turtles game that just came out?
Shredder's Revenge, right? Yes.
Yeah.
It's fun
I
as
haven't.
hell, especially with
So
friends.
good.
I haven't.
So
Oh,
sick.
you gotta.
I haven't
It's
played it.
so good.
Dean, we got to play
digging that.
together.
We'll do it, man. We'll do it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm digging that pleasure chest in the back.
Oh
garage.
yeah, it's a claw machine. Yeah.
That's great, man.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
it.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, no, the score. So Andrew Gordon McPherson, I think.
Yes.
The name of course. Yeah. Is there any plans to release that on vinyl, man? That'd be.
I would hope so. We
great
want
bit of
to.
merch.
That's something we really want to make happen. We spent so much time on the score, and the score is like, for me, the movie is like a musical film, and there's not a frame in the movie without music, really. And like when we were in development, Andrew was like sending me music, and while I was shooting, and I was playing it
Yeah.
on set. And then we had always like wanted to work like an orchestra, and so we were able to hire like an orchestra to
Hell yeah, dude.
do the music.
Yeah.
And that to me is like one of the most like rewarding, like best feelings. And yeah, just like those are my favorite songs, when they're just like very orchestrated and epic. And yeah.
Yeah, man. He
Hell
did a
yeah.
great job. Yeah. So yeah, merch for this movie, man. Action figures, video games.
Sign me up for
love
all
it.
the vinyl variants.
Coloring book, yeah, that here first coloring book, and you need a hot sauce as well. If you need a hot sauce,
Yeah,
Dean-
it'd be like
Dean
the
does love
burning
hot sauce.
slime. Yeah.
that's a good idea, right?
Yeah.
So no more. We'll talk. So Dustin, over to you, dude.
All right. So I wanted to ask you, what was it like, working with younger actors? Because usually your films of past have, dealt with like older people. So what
Mhm.
was it like having to handle these crazy kids.
They were
Yeah.
really good, really, really good.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, like most of them are from my hometown, which was great. And two of them, Dominic who plays Gary and Asher who plays Jack, they were from Vancouver. And we found them from like just watching hundreds of tapes across Canada. And like working with the kids for me, like I love it. Like personally, I prefer it to the working with adults. Because like with kids, it's just like I don't know. There's like no like for me. There's no egos yet,
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
and
yeah.
like and
Less intense. Yeah.
yeah, it's less intense, and the kids like want to have fun, and I want to have fun, and like I just like I especially with this movie, like I'm just like I'm trying to like I'm trying to pull out the inner kid in me as too, and so I just feed off that like with the kids and but I guess like the only challenging part is it's working around the like the schedules of it all because obviously you can only work with them so many hours a day, and you have to homeschool as well too,
Right. Yeah.
and so like every week you have to like bank all these like homeschooling hours, and if you don't it's like huge like penalties.
Wow.
And so like if you like for me constantly it was like if I'm shooting like if I have a scene with the kids I would have to figure it out like okay we have to get this kid into like so much tutoring today, so how should I shoot the scene for like to get them in like what I need them for the most and what I don't need them
Yeah.
to. And so I found that was most of the challenge for me was just figuring out the puzzle of the schedule to
Yeah.
best be to so I could be as creative as possible within those limitations, and
Yeah.
but yeah, but I loved working with them and like I said, I've been like I always try to like keep like a like try to keep like the set like a safe space for like especially for kids to like
Yeah.
feel like they could have fun and like bring any idea to the table and it would be like welcome and they could be themselves and like because I can just only imagine how like intense it could be for a kid and like
Yeah.
I remember even for me coming up in the film industry like just how scary and intense it was for me and still is to this day, and so I'm just like so cautious of that and hopefully like my hope was that the experience that the kids and everyone would have from making the movie would be so good that they would grow up like
Mm.
having nostalgia for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. It must be
exactly.
really tough for them as well, I guess, because they're acting, they're slipping into a character, and they're kind of immersed into this, world on set, and then they've just got to switch that off and go to do some math, and
I
then
know, total. That's
like,
the craziest thing.
and then get back into it again, and it's just
Yes.
that's a sign of a really good actor, I guess. Of
Oh,
yeah,
totally. Yes. Sometimes it
so,
would literally be like they're gone for 15 minutes or a half hour, and
yeah,
then they come back. And it's like, how are they
yeah,
even learning anything?
yeah,
Like,
They just want to get it done and go right back on set. They're like,
yeah,
yes.
just
yeah,
do it
yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
going.
Yeah,
The guy, the
totally.
guy, the guy that played Billy was great as well. His character was
Yes.
such an arsehole, wasn't it? The character,
Yeah.
he played it so well. What a good looking guy as well. He was
Yeah.
really, really
I
well
tried
cast.
really hard to like him. I really did. And then I was like, no, as soon as he
No.
started doing those other things,
Sign
I'm
of a
like,
great
nope.
actor though, man, because
Yeah.
he played like an arsehole so well. Like he
I
was so
yeah,
brilliant.
he's so great and he's the nicest guy in real life. And so
Yeah.
it's so funny, like, to see him play that. And I've been at film festivals with him, and people had seen the movie, and then they would see him, and they'd be like, "You asshole!" You know,
Oh. Poor Sam.
like,
Poor
no,
Sam.
he's a nice guy. He's so nice. Yeah,
You hear
yeah,
about that with a lot of actors over here, like in soaps, and they go to the
yes,
supermarket and they play like a bad character in a soap, and everyone's like, "I can't believe you did that to Peggy
I
Mitchell."
know.
I didn't
It's
write
like,
it. Don't yell
I'm an
at
actor.
Yeah, I love it.
Uh,
me. So another thing I wanted to ask you, because this scene's pretty intense, without going into like anything spoilery, is the water scene. How is it like having to do filming in water and in the surrounding areas?
Yeah, well, I grew up on the water, and so I've always loved like shooting on the water. It's never like been like something I've been intimidated by. But it, you know, it does have its challenges. And when we wrote the movie, we wrote it to take place in the summer. And then just the nature of the production, it kept, you know, getting pushed into December. And so I'm having to do all
Oh
these water
no.
sequences with the kids in like, you know, below
Oh
zero like
man.
temperatures, you know.
Wow.
And that was like stressful for like the production, you know, for sure. But once like one kid did it, it was like for all the other kids, it became kind of like it's like when you're a kid and there's like that thing you're not supposed to do, like go swimming in the winter, you know, like you're not supposed to do that. But if an adult was like, you know, when you're a kid, like let's go jump in the water in the winter, you'd be like, oh, that sounds kind of exciting in a way, you know. And so they all got like really into it and really excited about doing it, and it almost was like a rite of passage or something, you know, or something to brag about. Like they definitely were like, yeah, jumped in the water yesterday, you know, like they wore it like a badge of honor. So, but yeah, that, and then we went to a tank and got to do some stuff like underwater where the tank is like, you know, it's warm water,
Yep.
and that was cool. I'd love to do more. Like, I always wanted, like, I had a dream like years ago to make like an underwater haunted house movie, and tried to get that made, and it never came to be. So any opportunity I can get to like shoot a little thing underwater, like it just helps me kind of exercise some of the stuff from that movie.
Hell
Have you
yeah.
seen there's one out actually called Deep House? Have you seen that?
Oh,
It's with
I saw the trailer for it, and when I saw it, I was like, damn, that's like, you know, more or
Mick
less like,
Jagger's Mick
yeah.
Jagger's
So
son in it. Yeah.
I probably don't necessarily need to make the movie now,
No, no,
but
no.
Do it
I
anyway.
think you
Come
no,
on, man. Here's what the
you
people
definitely
do.
do, man. You definitely do.
Do it. Do it.
but
And
it looks cool. It definitely looks cool.
I
the
mean,
the
we'd rather
ship
see yours.
design too that you have in this film is really, really cool looking.
Oh, cool.
Like that I want as a toy. That needs to be a toy. If you're gonna make anything, make that and have it open.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was, you know, the inspiration behind it is like what would be the like play set, you know, that you could do something like that. And the centerpiece of the inside the UFO we call the slime throne, where the aliens melt life forms
Mm.
down to use their skin as fuel for the ship. And
That's such a creepy thing too, just hearing that and them saying that in the film too. It gave me chills. I'm like, oh dude, you
oh,
don't
good.
hear them
Yeah.
say that in films.
Yeah, yeah. That was like inspired by like when I was a kid, like my favorite play sets like had like a slime set, you know, like
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles had the Flush-O-Matic,
Oh yeah.
and He-Man had the slime pit,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I needed to have like the slime set that would be in the play set of the universe of the movie.
Oh hell yeah.
That's
Uh
amazing, man.
Dean, do you have anything else you want to throw? I think I ran through
Yeah.
pretty much all of mine.
Well, I was going to say that how much of yourself is in this movie, but I think you've definitely explained that. But
All
like
of
any,
it.
yeah, all of it, man. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like for me, like there is a lot of myself and the co-writer John Davies and I, we've known each other since we were 5 years old. And so we've gone all through school together, discovered our love for like filmmaking, and all the shenanigans with the kids and the sister are based on real life things that me and John used to do with my
mm,
sister and our siblings. But also too, like I'm very inspired by like the local folklore that we have like back home in Nova Scotia. And if you look this up, there's such a really cool story of a UFO that crashed on the southern point of Nova Scotia.
I have to look this up.
It's called the Shag Harbor UFO crash of 1967. And the very opening of my movie Kids versus Aliens pays tribute to that story, where back then when it happened, and this is all like real for real, like it happened, like a bunch of fishermen saw this like light crash into the ocean, and they raced over there with their boats thinking that it was a plane that went down and maybe they could find survivors. And when they got there, there was no debris, and there was just this glowing light coming from like the
Oh
depths
wow.
below. And when I was a kid, that story really fascinated me. And someone in my family had worked in the Navy, and they heard all these rumors over the years as to what they
wow.
heard happened there. And so that like made me feel like it was real, like that could be real, that aliens were like could be like in my backyard, but like I like the idea of them being underwater, like crash landing in the water and then,
Yeah.
coming up from the depths, to then capture things and bring it down. Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
always creeped me out, the idea of that when I was a kid.
Who knows what's
Very
in our
cool.
ocean? We still don't know.
Yeah, there's like 95% of it still has yet to be
Yeah.
navigated.
So
So
who
yeah,
knows? Maybe your spaceship that you created is down there.
that would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm pretty sure I saw some aliens in the water when I was in Thailand. There's some things in that water there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've always been afraid of like that, like being in the water and that line in which you can't see the bottom, and it's like,
Yeah.
what
Oh
is
yeah.
down there? Yeah.
Oh man, we did a trip to Thailand many years ago, and they had these things called fire jellyfish. And
Oh,
they said don't go anywhere near them. You can see them because they're bright red, but they basically,
yeah.
if they sting you, they make you feel like your body's on fire.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
And we saw one from look off a boat. We looked down. I was like, "Holy shit! Look at this thing! It looked like an alien, man. It was
Oh,
insane,
wow. Yeah.
crazy, crazy." So yeah, jellyfish definitely is an alien, man.
It
To
could
Oh
me,
yeah.
be.
this thing scared the hell out of me.
Sometimes I think that with octopuses too. They're just so
Yeah,
like
Well, that's a
from another
fun
yeah, you're
world,
too.
right.
Did you guys hear about what
Definitely.
I think it was the Russians that discovered in Alaska or something? They discovered a new like octopus. It's like some
Oh,
weird
wow.
thing. And it the way that
Wow.
they're talking about it's like this is the thing. It sounds like it's something
Oh,
Wow.
out of the thing. So when you're done with this,
Wow.
go look that up and you'll be like, what the hell? It's got
yeah,
a
interesting.
ton of legs. It's so creepy looking.
Wow. Some good
Whoa.
characters for the sequel, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
there
could
you
be.
go.
Yep.
There you go.
Good inspiration.
Oh yeah.
Coloring book and fire jellyfish. I want to see in the next one, man.
Oh, yeah, hell
Hell yeah.
yeah.
Uh, but Jason, this was a blast. I ran through all of my questions. You kind of answered what's going to be
Cool.
coming next. So I'm very intrigued to keep an eye on your career even more. I
Oh,
was
thank
already
you.
kind of on the radar with you with like the shorts that you did and Hobo with a Shotgun, and as Dean said with like Tree Venge and whatnot. So I'm very very excited for your future, man. Very
Oh,
very
thank you. I
excited.
appreciate that. Yeah, hopefully, if people like this movie, please be loud about it because I would love nothing more than to continue making more stories within this world. And like the sequel for this is so crazy. Like what we have planned for it, I've been just like giddy about it while making this movie and laying the like breadcrumbs for it because like, yeah, there's nothing I would love more than to do that. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's like another thing too, is like, how like years ago, like, oh, no one wants sequels. Everybody wants a sequel now because the
yeah,
movies before set up such good stuff. And then you see
yeah.
the second and you're like, it's even better than the first. Like that was so rare, like 10, like, yeah, like even like 10, 15 years ago, super rare. Now, all of a sudden, the
Yeah.
last like 5 years or so, like sequels have been killing it. So I'm excited for anything Kids versus Aliens, man.
Yeah, I'm always like one of my favorite movies is Ghostbusters 2. And
Oh, yeah.
like
Mhm.
and I remember at the time like people being like, "Ah, it's not as good as the first one," but like man, I've
Oh, I
like
loved it.
I'm just as fond of it as the first one and I feel like that's a great example of a good of a like a really fun like sequel. But yeah.
I was obsessed. I was obsessed with Ghostbusters too, man. I remember when
Oh,
that came
same.
out. I
Yeah.
remember when it came out, and we had like a local Wimpy was just giving away Ghostbusters toys. We had this can. It was like basically it was a can of nothing. If you open it up, apparently a ghost came out. I'm not sure.
Uh,
It's just like
Good marketing.
yeah, it was like a marketing thing. But man, you just don't
that's
get
fun.
much
That's
cool
so
shit like that
fun.
anymore. But yeah,
No,
really good.
yeah, yeah. That like Ghostbusters was a huge inspiration on Kids versus Aliens. Like my
Yeah.
part, I asked my partner like, someone asked me like, what movies were you watching like during the making of it, and I couldn't even think. Like I was like, what was I watching? And my partner was like, you were watching Ghostbusters. You were watching
Yeah.
Ghostbusters and reading about the making of Ghostbusters,
Yeah.
and that was something. Yeah, I love like the spirit in that movie where it's the camera angles are great and all like
Mhm.
every shot's composed like really well, but there's like this looseness within the frame and the performers.
Yeah.
Like I always felt like watching especially the first one, like to me growing up when I was a kid and I saw it, it was like a documentary to me. Like I thought it was like almost real in a way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um and I think part of that is because of the looseness of like those three guys on the screen. So I tried to like do that as much as I could with kids, like as like, have nice frames, but let the kids like play like within them, and allow for there to be room for like improv and that looseness like they have in Ghostbusters.
Yeah, totally, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything Jason Eisner right now, keep your eye out, everybody, because this was a blast. Yeah, thank you for coming on and for everybody to help set this up. Dean, as always, thank you for being here as my partner in crime. And yeah, this was
Yeah.
such a blast, man.
Jason,
Yeah.
I've just got to give you, if you don't mind, can you give a shout out to my friend Stuart, because he's a mad fan of Dark Side of the Ring, man. He
Oh yeah,
loves.
totally. Yeah, shout
So
out Stuart, man.
he'll love that. He'll love that, dude. Because I was speaking to him before, and I said, we're not on there to talk about Dark Side of the Ring. And he was like, ask him about this, ask him about this. I was like, we're not here for that.
Another conversation.
Anything you want to know, he can reach out. But yeah,
he's a big fan, so he'll appreciate that. So yeah, cheers, man.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Cool,
we'd
cool.
love to have you back on too, Jason, anytime.
Yeah, I'd
talk
love to
about
too.
just Ghostbusters 2. We'll get you on there and just talk about that, man.
Hey, I'd be down to. I could go on forever about that movie. It's my one actually. Well, maybe I have a couple movie traditions, but I watch that movie every New Year's Eve because I think it's the best New Year's Eve movie. Like, I know people who time it up. Like, I think it's like the time when the Statue of Liberty smashes through the library is when the clock strikes 12, like in that movie. But yeah, totally down. It's been so nice to meet you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for
too,
doing this. And everybody listening, please check out Kids versus Aliens. It is going to be digital, and it's going to the select theaters too, correct? On January 20th. So
you got it.
This will be coming out that week. So leading up to it, trying to get the hype going.
Yeah.
And I will be reaching out to my local theaters to make sure they're getting their hands on this.
That'd be awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So Jason, thank you so much for being here, and we'll catch everybody next time.
Right on.